Tom Cruise is a manifestation master, and this movie is a clear indicator of this. Tom managed to create a really good sequel in the current year. That's miracle number one. I suggest you see this whole movie through the eyes of Tom Cruise, a 59-year-old man in great mental and physical shape, always high energy with a smile on his face, while being highly professional at work. He even had to found his own life insurance company because he does most of the stunts himself, and no sane company wanted to insure that. Tom really lives life to the fullest. You have to give him that. He does whatever he wants. And that's the lens I suggest you view this movie through. Tom Cruise was surely involved in countless small and large decisions during the production. And it shows. There are no big mistakes in that movie. I'm sure it will be one of the best movies of 2022, because the rest are not so good. He managed to create a respectful sequel of one of the most successful Navy advertisements of all times. I had watched the 1986 original recently, and boy, it's weird and the age shows. The sequel managed to improve in so many ways, but more on that later. Final verdict? Top Gun Maverick is a great cinematic experience. It's no must-see movie, it's just a really good film. Watch it in a cinema with the greatest of screens and the loudest of speakers. IMAX if possible. Now on the symbolism in the movie. I only saw two clear club symbols in the movie. One was a very clear 33 near the end of the movie, and the other one was obviously Saturn. One character had the following characteristics: black, silent, deaf. But this time it was not the mother, but it was male. In the movie, that guy that is representing Saturn was the caretaker of the protagonist. Maybe that's how they counted. Then Saturn said, "It's time to let go." Time is the keyword here, and if you go to the extreme, you could of course use the O of the go as a ring, representing of course Saturn. I'm exaggerating because this was a major text line in the movie. O also being the last letter he had written on the computer, which then of course if you take the O away, leaves us with the famous Masonic G. That character was the only one that had a lot of club symbols on him. Statistically significant. As well as the 33, that one is also very statistically significant. Besides that, I did not see any clear club symbols. It was quite an entertaining movie. Now, a dark movie-related theory. This one contains heavy spoilers. Please check the timestamp to skip ahead if you haven't seen the movie yet. So, during the final act of the movie, Tom Cruise's plane is shot down. There's no parachute visible and no eject sequence is shown. So it is very likely, here my obvious theory, that everything that happens afterwards is his deathbed hallucination. I mean, the idea that your brain creates a perfect ending for your life in the microsecond before the fatal plane or car accident. If you know the proper term, please write it in the comments. Because everything that happens afterwards is just like a perfect dream ending. All the plot points are resolved in the best way possible. Nobody died, Tom is the hero of the day. Everything's great. The flashing of the 33 during that intense moment could be an indicator that he is not really alive or something. That it's just his imagination. And while writing the script, I came up with the obvious second theory. The protagonist, Maverick, died during the test flight in the beginning of the movie, and everything afterwards is his deathbed hallucinations. That instead of being fired for fucking up a $1 billion toy, he instead got called to the place he was most happy in his entire life, Top Gun. There he meets the chick he loved so much, and even get to resolve the tensions with that young man, get his respect, and even adopt him in the end as his own son. And they lived happily ever after. Well, that's a very dark theory, because he died in the beginning and everything was just his imagination, 1 second before the plane landed, crashed on the ground. Feel free to steal this idea if you have a movie channel. End of spoilers. Now comes the unscripted rambling part. So, in my point of view, Tom Cruise is the absolute madman. I realized this when I saw the movie called The Edge of Tomorrow, retitled as Live, Die, Repeat, with Tom Cruise. The movie was very well made, and afterwards I checked the making of and I saw that Tom Cruise had a big part in it. His mind, well, works perfectly, and he has done so many movies that he has a camera in his mind already. So he said that when he was walking down the set, he already could see, okay, we should do a stunt here, the camera should be over there, we should do this, I will do this, okay, what is here, let's change this to that, and so on and so on. So he's very good at making movies. And he really likes to live life to the fullest. Maybe he also read about quantum immortality. Isn't Live, Die, Repeat even a movie about quantum immortality? Of course he's not perfect, but who is? Now a little rambling about club symbols. What exactly is the meaning of club symbols? Well, it's very simple, just a signature of the club. It's like, let's use some other things as an example. Let's say somebody who likes to smoke a lot of weed would make a movie. A signature scene would look like this. A guy wakes up from a crazy dream. It's 4:20. His name is Weedman, and he goes to his company boss who's called Crystal Elfman or something like that. The company is selling snacks and smoked ham and all other types of tasty fast food. For the normal viewer, this would look like a normal scene, but for those who know the 420 symbols, it would be a very clear indicator that the writer of the script knew all the things. Another similar example is the usage of the famous Wilhelm scream by sound editors. It's also not technically necessary, it's just like a little signature, like, hey, I'm part of the club. Like inserting some Star Wars references into a video game, just to show that you are a nerd, that you're part of the nerd club. The same is true for all the club symbols. It's just things that are statistically significant and show that whoever was involved in the making of the movie was part of the club. And for most normal people, because they're not educated, they will not see the symbols and will think that Weedman is a normal name and that waking up at 4:20 has no symbolic meaning at all. Okay, now some ramblings about the movie. Also spoilers ahead. No spoilers at first. The thing when I watched the old movie that struck me the most was, of course, that in the first half of the movie, Tom Cruise was smiling all the time. It was like, I don't know, very strange. He had no acting capabilities, he just enjoyed it to the fullest. And it was in the full first half of the movie, it was very strange. Then, of course, the big problem that movie had, the old movie, was the question, how do you film a jet dogfight? It's pretty hard to put all the action onto one screen in a cohesive manner. For example, in the old movie they just showed one guy, he put his stick to the right, and then they showed another guy who put his stick to the left, and then they said something, and then it's just very hard to convey aerial combat, because technically the planes are very small, and the distances are pretty large. But in this movie they managed a lot, especially by grounding it. So they really, at the beginning of writing the script, they thought, okay, how can we make this movie more pleasing to the eye? How can we make the action more followable? So it's easier to follow. Yeah, and they really grounded the whole movie so that a major part of the movie takes not up in the air, but close to the ground on purpose. This, of course, increases the tension and makes everything much more, well, interesting for the eye. Of course, then the fact that Tom Cruise is a madman and they did a lot of the stunts for real, that all the G-forces they experienced, at least they experienced real G-forces, so there were no faking, and some actors even didn't manage to fill a role because they could not withstand that high amount of physical torture. But Tom Cruise, he loved that shit, I'm sure. I mean, it's every little boy's dream to fly in a jet. Another thing that struck me a lot positively was how respectful the sequel was made. It's something I think we are just not used to anymore in the current year. And another interesting part was that Tom Cruise now, as many of us also, is in an older generation. The first movie, it was about the hot guy who gets the chick and kills all the enemies and is the hottest star. This time around, it's almost 40 years later. Tom Cruise is almost, normally he would be a grandpa by now. So the role he plays is also one of the, like an elder who's looking over the younglings, making sure that the next generation will grow up in a good way. I heard that this was one of the considered plot lines for the real Star Wars sequels. Okay, so the plot was as follows. Luke was successful and he saved the whole galaxy. But what comes next? Will Luke be a good teacher? Will his students be able to take care of everything? Or will they be deceived and tempted to go to the dark side? And then maybe in the follow-up movie, what happens if Luke dies? Yeah, how do people cope with the fact that their beloved teacher died in a positive way? Well, it would have been interesting movies. But instead we got, what we got. And another small detail, because movie making is everything about solving small riddles, was the fact that, I find, in my point of view, the animated computer screens, all the numbers, all the displays look very beautiful. I mean, they had in the beginning the scene where all you see is just a number, and you could see that whoever created this display put a lot of effort into it. It's not just simple take a font and make a number. No, they added layers and layers of effects so that the number would look really nice on the eye. So that you could have the whole screen only centered on one number, and this whole screen looked like a very nice movie. Yeah, you could even take a screenshot of this and it would look like a really good movie. So a lot of things went right in this movie. And should you ever feel down and depressed and whatever, think about what would Tom Cruise do in your shoes. He would start running, he would start planning, he would do phone calls, he would arrange things. He would take a lot of action. And, as always, find your life's path. And take action, just like Tom Cruise does all the time. Vital Redpill out.